Hello, and welcome to the Million Dollar Electrician Podcast, where we help home service pros like you supercharge your business and spark up those sales.
I'm Joseph Lucani, and together with my co-host, Clay Newmeyer, we're here to share the secrets that have helped electricians sell over $1 million from a single service van.
Now, it's time for sales. It's time for scale. It's time to become $1 million electrician. Hello. Joseph, how are you doing today, my brother?
Dude, I am amazing. Not sure if it's the caffeine, but this thing is strong and it is powering my energy for the day. What about you, man?
I love that. I've got the tricky service loop cup. It looks like coffee, but I assure you it's water at this point because I've already hit my max 3 cups for the morning, and I can't be shaken through this podcast, man.
I don't blame you. Let's throw up you. Let's finish it up.
Cheers. Okay, so today we've got a really exciting episode, and I'm just pumped to bring this to everyone and to have you help get us there. Today we're talking about this big R word, how important it is to have rapport, how important it is to have a great first impression, a Harvard study around this that's going to change the way you think about these first impressions, and how hard it is to claw that back if you mess this up. We're going to tie in some nerdy stuff. We got some great wins. And finally, at the end of this episode, for the first time ever, we're spinning the Wheel of Fortune. And what's on this wheel is a bunch of names of people that put their hand up for our value piece over the last 2 weeks, wanting to learn more about our 6 option secrets. And the winner of this draw today is actually going to get to drop in on a class with us and get help from the Wizard of Options himself, yours truly, Joe Lucani, in building a set of options for one of their opportunity calls. Joe, I am pumped for this, man. What do you say we get this underway?
I can't wait. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this podcast all day.
Okay, perfect. So start us off by giving me just your perspective on how important, and I'll even precede this by saying I've never seen anyone go into as much depth on pre-arrival steps and these first impressions as you. How important is this to you, Joe, and why?
It is, and I don't know if I can stress this properly. It is the most important thing that you can do. And the fact that it's not an enough sales process in the industry blows my mind. Now, I've been very clear and very open that I've been trained by multiple different coaches throughout my career. None of them did any focus on the pre-arrival, which I thought was always very surprising. But when we actually go into why we need to do it, it becomes even more surprising. And I can't wait to dive into it. But remember, because there's so much depth behind it, you need to be my control brake. If I go too hard in, you need to be like, all right, slow it down, back up.
I want to give you guys some warning. We might end up 5 to 10 minutes longer on this one because there's a ton to unpack. Yeah. And I want to acknowledge what you're saying, because it's not even just the coaches out there, and it's never to throw sand, guys.
Yeah.
But we've seen enough now to know, like, for sure, over the years of coaching, people overlook these steps until it bites them in the ass.
100%.
Like, you open your door at a client's house and garbage flies out because the wind picked up and gusted, right?
Yeah,
and apple core, cigarette butts hit the ground. Go ahead, man. Jump in.
Yeah, like one of the best examples that comes to mind is there's 2 things that happened, one to me and another to a client prior to doing this. The first with me is I used the black screw example, where we say to ourselves, I literally had a situation where I opened the back door of my van to get my tools, which wasn't with me in the front of my cab. Opened the back, and literally a box of black wood screws fell all over the black driveway. And the customer is watching me pick these up, red faced. And the whole time I'm like, man, I hope he doesn't pop his tire in the next 2 weeks, because I'm going to get the bill for this.
And just to be clear, is that a great first impression?
No, because literally it's showcasing incompetence. It's showcasing that you're unorganized. It's showcasing that you didn't come with the right intention. But even more so, how you react showcases how you'll react when bad things happen in their home. Because there is going to be something bad that happens. But when you showcase how you handle the bad and the unexpected, you can also demonstrate the level of service they can come to expect from you.
I like
so
that.
Let's say, sake of argument, something happens, the screws drop, and I open the door. And I slam the door and I start yelling out profanities. What's that going to communicate to the customer?
This guy's unorganized, right? And ill-equipped to handle stressful situations.
Exactly. Compared to if something like that happened, I'm like, not a problem. I have something in place, and I pull an actual magnet stick out, and I go, zoop, 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 put it back in the van. Hey, I apologize for the delay, but it's okay. We're come prepared for these eventualities.
Total different scenario now.
And now I haven't even gotten to the call. I haven't even shut up to your front door. But the impression and the state of the call is a night and day difference. And that's only part of the pre-arrival process that we're going to get into.
Yeah, for sure. And I love something that you share about this with the recent uptick in number of people with like Ring cameras and the
Oh yeah.
ability to just oversee their driveway or front of their
Hmm.
property for safety and security reasons. But
Hmm.
you know as well as I do, people are also using that for checks sometimes, even
Hmm.
midday.
Yeah. So, like, another example of this is that a lot of times when the industry teaches sales, it teaches where the customer sees you at the door and the interaction starts there. But with modern technology, and I'll even use my own home as an example. My home is like Fort Knox. I have backup systems on backup systems for the cameras. But the fact is that I've literally tracked people going into my driveway and I'll watch them for 5 to 10 seconds to see if I can get a gauge on them before they do. And I know I'm not alone in that. So if you imagine that you're only planning on being visible when you get to the door, you could be having so much unspoken be communicated in your body language, in your demeanor. Like a good example that comes to mind, and I'll even shorten this massively, was I had a technician come to my home for something. And when he came into the door, you could tell his face, he looked pissed. There was garbage visible in his van. He forgot his tools and had to go back before even ringing the door. He threw his cigarette right into the van and slammed it. And then he shows up at the door, brushes himself, smiles, and he's ready to go like nothing happened. But what was I thinking the whole time I saw him there? It wasn't that he's showing up a 10 out of a 10. I'm looking at this guy like, what are you trying to sell? If that's who you are and this is who you're trying to portray yourself as, I don't look at you as authentic. And if you're not authentic, why should I buy from you?
He sacrificed a huge A that I would say is authenticity
Mm-hmm.
massively because you're literally watching him change forms before your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
being a slob, being a mess, and still smelling like that, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and then knocking on the door like a 10, as you said.
Yeah. And, as a former smoker, I have no judgments for people wanting to power down a cigarette. I get it. I've been that guy. But even the pre arrival has that in mind as well. Every single time you go to a call, do you have a spare uniform? Are you pulling over 1 block or 1 mile prior to reaching your site and doing a 360-degree check of your van and yourself? So, like, as an example, when I was smoking in the van, I had a thermal shirt that I would put over my uniform. That way I could take it off and be done. And I had a spare uniform in a Ziploc, like almost dry cleaning zipper bag that when I did smoke, it didn't smell. So even if you are someone who's smoking, which I will not judge you for,
Mm-hmm.
you still have the things in place because you coming across as a cigarette smoker does affect your closing ratio.
Yeah,
So you removing the odor that's associated with it actually increases your chance of closing and connection.
100%. It's the minority now. Fewer
Mm-hmm.
and fewer people smoke. And actually, for the first time ever, I want to say this fewer and fewer people are drinking too.
Mm-hmm.
Smelling like booze, wearing yesterday's uniform, and after work you stop by the pub for a few. Today you put the same one on because you woke up late after a few crisp pops from last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing happens all the time. And if that scent is on you, what's happening in the customer's mind?
Oh my God. I mean, HVAC guys see it all the time. Hey, I'm going to go up in the attic and I'm going to bring the apprentice with me. And he's sweating out vodka. And you're like, this is not a good sign. We electricians are no different. You got to go into a crawl space, you got to go into an attic. It's going to be hot up there, even in the middle of September. So the fact is that if you're drinking, someone's going to know about it.
Can I get nerdy on this for a moment?
I love that. Go for it,
Okay.
man. This is the place for it.
There's a Harvard study done, and it's called The Importance of First Impressions.
Hmm.
Seems like a good fit for this to talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. Send it.
What they found was you ultimately have about 5 seconds for your first impression.
Hmm.
Now, that even to me feels longer than my intuition says. For a lot
Hmm.
of the things we're talking about, it's like a fraction of a second before the
Point
beginning of
five.
that
Yeah.
judgment happens. But 5 seconds takes into account like your actual introduction to someone, not just their glancing at you from their camera.
Hmm.
Now, what's crazy about this study is not that, okay, well, granted, it takes 5 seconds to make judgment on someone for the first time, But what happens as a result of a negative judgment, they found that on average, it takes 8 positive subsequent interactions to recover
Oh
enough
my God.
trust to actually get a sale done from this standpoint, to actually cause influence with someone.
Wow.
Isn't that
That
wild?
is that's insane
8.
because the thing that I'm hearing with that is imagine how defeating that must be to a technician. Because the fact is that we've all been there. Like I know I've shown up to calls and not known why this customer doesn't like me. And I've known that you and everyone can feel it. Like you can't put your finger on why it's happening, but you can sense that it's happening. And immediately makes you want to say, what did I do? So if I had a proper pre-arrival and I'm like, I did this, 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 and this, I know that I at least showed up and it's not on me. That means that there's a personal thing that they've got going on. And just having that bit of information of saying it's not me drastically affects your confidence. Because if you show up thinking it's your fault and they're making it seem like it's your fault, how confident are you going to be when it comes time for objection handles?
Not.
You're not.
You won't even have a leg to stand on.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we've talked about this many times. I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, but I want to say in the development of a sales process, a
Mm-hmm.
certain amount of this is keeping information on each call that you've ran and realizing what objections are popular, how they're defeating you, how you're defeating them, and especially what you've done, what we've done is go ahead and insert little pieces of the sales process to help you eliminate those from happening in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
if not being able to handle them post. This first impression piece, if I can go nerdy again, let me
Do it. Yeah.
triangulate this situation actually. I want to draw a visual if possible. I want you to think of this like an acute triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we all learned about this a little bit. For us, it was third year. You're getting into trig stuff, but an acute triangle is talking about less than 90 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me hold my hands up. This is an acute angle. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's about 30 degrees or even close to 40 or 45 degrees.
Yeah, looks about right.
If you think of this first impression like you're a flat line and you've got 5 seconds to determine what your trajectory is, what that acute angle is going to be, if it's bad, you're just stuck at 0. It's a flat line. And this is almost a representation of the opportunity at the end. And if you guys can't see me because you're not on YouTube on our channel and you're just listening on your favorite podcast channel, I'm just here holding my hands up like a duck's beak, opening them and closing them to show you different angles. But imagine you have a great first impression and you arrive at, say, like a 60-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
That represents the amount of bountiful opportunity that you have when you later offer 6 potential solutions for this customer in that opportunity or even a demand call. And I think this is a good time to plug in a few of the wins that we've seen this week from doing exactly that, Joe.
Oh,
What's
I
your
can't.
favorite win of the week?
So my favorite win, I believe, has to be from Nick V. And the reason being is he's been with us for not very long. It's been what, about like a week or so?
Uh, Going on a month?
A month? Yeah, I was gonna say. So I got to look into the exact amount, but the realistic part of it is that he hasn't been here for a very long time, but ended up going in and closing what was a total of $16,000 platinum.
A
And
$16,000 platinum. So someone took him at the
yeah,
top.
and then the next day, the same person ended up meeting with him at his personal home and having an $8,000 silver sale made. Now, the reason why I think that's such a big deal is because it does two things and it really highlights the underlying relationship here. For someone to take you at your best in and of itself has an immense amount of trust built. Because what they're saying is they believe that you are the best that's available. They are comfortable paying a premium and they are voting for you to be their long-term provider. For someone to take you at their platinum, all three has to happen. If they do not trust, like, and respect you, that cannot be the option that gets taken. Because
100%.
even if it was an emergency repair, like, oh, well, they had no power, they're still not going to take your best. They're going to take what they believe the scope of work entails. And they're going to do it because they feel a gun to their head. But that's not how we operate. We operate off of rapport. And by presenting those solutions, it showed he did the right job. But going further above that, this person not only liked him in this business, because it was a business owner that he sold to, then ended up inviting him back to his personal home because he wanted more work done that was unrelated to that scope that he wasn't even planning on bringing up because of that relationship. And then on top of that, closed an $8,000 silver sale. So the real value here is that not only did the rapport land him an absolutely massive sale with a huge amount of future potential, but it got him a secondary sale of very high quantity. And it showcased that this is going to be a long term repeat customer. So, because his rapport was so strong, he got sales now, he got a relationship for the future, and he's also going to have future work as well.
100%. There's so many ways we could go with this, but I feel like it's due to like start off by just saying, what's the cost of rapport in this case? And it's $24,000. So congratulations, Nick. And the lifetime value, I'm sure, is going up, brother, as you continue to serve and even run the installer upgrade process
Mhm.
with more opportunity again, because in the personal residence, the person took a silver. Clearly, they trust Nick at the highest level. I mean, there's still opportunity to even grow that to a gold or a platinum. Who
Mhm.
knows? And then, like you said, down the road. My gosh, man. You drew a parallel that I want to touch on, if that's okay, before
Sure,
we
by all
jump in the
means.
next win, my favorite
Yeah.
win of the week. You mentioned rapport.
Mhm.
And of course, that's the topic, but personal rapport,
Yep.
right? And there's a few ways that we look at this. So, something you've said often is like, we want to show up as a 10. In fact,
Mhm.
we've both said that many times, but what does it really mean? We've never broken it down before.
Sure.
And there's like three pillars to this.
Mhm.
And it's also why we suggest having the CSR and doing your organic marketing too, because one of those 10s that you're looking for is have your company show up as a 10. What does it
Mhm.
look like when Service Loop Electric arrives on site? Your
Mhm.
person as a 10. So that smoking, the scents, all that stuff, apple cores falling out, screws on the driveway, and then the scatterbrain effort to reactively clean them up versus
Mhm.
being organized and being prepared for situations, right? If your iPad dies, if you got the mustard stain on your shirt because the hot dog
Mhm.
dripped and you didn't even see it, all these things are taking from that 10 in personal rapport.
Mhm.
And then there's your product and service rapport. So all three of those have to be at peak before someone will decide to buy with you. Would you agree with that?
I would. And I love the fact that you're going into a little more depth because there's also another area that I see personal rapport fall apart, right? You can be the best electrician, you can have everything proper. But imagine sitting down for a presentation with a teacher and you've got a ton of spelling mistakes in your presentation.
Mm,
Now, that may not take away from your profession, but it does take away from your person. Because now they're saying, all right, I have someone who may not be as literate. And this is an industry where intelligence and education is extremely in high commodity.
yep,
And you could be the smartest electrician in the world, but having spelling errors really can have a negative effect on this sale.
I agree.
So there's so much that goes into the person that I don't think we really touch on because
Yep,
we're so focused on will they take it from the dollars and cents standpoint.
yep. Here's another quick win, if I may. Uh,
Mhm.
John T, actually, another newer member, just recently joined us, just had his first platinum and with the first class membership,
I
which
love
is
that.
amazing because we tend to see first platinums come through, but they don't always have that first class club membership attached.
Mhm.
That's one of the other things that we suggest. But John took full advantage, got them both done. And this client obviously had that level of rapport and had those 310s because not only did he choose John today, but he chose him for the rest of the year with that membership and paid
Mhm.
up front to have it. So congrats, John. I think that's an amazing, amazing start, man. And we see big things coming for you. Oh, Joe. Okay. We've talked about the pre-arrival, the van kind of before the door, if you would.
Mhm.
What about when you're approaching to meet someone for the first time? We must have some hints in here, some stuff to help people out here today.
Yeah. So realistically, the main focus that I had was threat assessment and threat gauging. Because
Hmm.
if you imagine a visual of I show up to the door, like imagine you're opening the door and I'm 1 foot away from the door. How wide would you open this door if you don't know who I am?
You know what? Probably inversely proportionate to the closeness that you're standing to it. Really?
Hmm. Or also the threat that I might be. Like, let's say I'm a larger, more well-built person than you are, or let's say
Yeah.
that you're of the opposite sex or something like that. Like, I could appear as a threat to you,
Yeah.
right? So the first thing is we have to make sure that when they open the door, they remain in mental control of the scenario. So what I found is 3 feet or one solid arm's length away from that door is usually a pace and a half back. If you're that distance, you're not in what's known as the threat zone, meaning that if someone can open their physical space, our personal bubbles do not overlap. Meaning, I am here, you are here. For me to cross that threshold, it would have to be a pronounced action,
Yep.
right?
Love it.
The second thing is, where are my hands? Now, if I were to say that my hands are behind me and you can't see me, right? Or I'm at the door and I'm close, okay, it's a problem. But even I'm 3 feet away, but my hands are tucked behind me, or they're in my shirt, or they're in my jacket, or they're in my pockets. That's a threat assessment. So, for certain industries and certain professions, you need to be mentally aware of threat assessment. So what I've done is I always have my hands visually in front of me. So I'll even stand for it. So like I have my hands right here. The reason why is when someone views me, they not only see my posture is up, my smile is present, but my hands are visual and I'm out of their space. So what they're seeing is I am a friendly person based off the smile. I am a safe, non threatening person because they see that I have nothing that's visible that can be of danger to them.
Mhm.
And I'm not in their personal bubble, meaning they are more allowed to open the door to a wider end and to personally engage with me. And I ask permission to enter said space, and they willingly allow me in, thus giving them that control and reducing their fear of threat.
Friend, not foe, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes perfect sense. I mean, look around. And you know what, Joe? I'm not about this. I'm not about fear mongering and stuff. But just recently, I was challenged to look up some of the stats
Mm-hmm.
around really, what's the best way to word this? Just violence in the United States of America.
Jeez.
It, it's
Yeah.
widespread.
Mhm.
There's a lot, right? We all worry about our kids at some point. We all feel this, and it's North America wide too, right? Guns per capita is up. You have to acknowledge this thing, and I think it's really important. Some of the pieces you said on the latter half of that, with even smiling, holding your
Mhm.
hands appropriately, and maintaining that distance, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, you got to be careful out there, man. You
Mhm.
don't want people to feel that threat. So I'm acknowledging this and saying, you know what, bravo on you for taking it to that depth and
Mhm.
teaching people at that level, because I can clearly see if you get this wrong, what happens.
Really, it's your own sale and relationship that gets lost. Because if we can take this from the big picture, you took the time to market this lead, right? You spent money on your marketing in order to get them to want to call. You paid your CSR and your office staff to take the call. You paid your technicians time and fuel and training and everything to get them to this point, only to have them lose the entire opportunity within a 5 seconds because they did something that was 100% in their control and they didn't do it. And now, as a result, all of that investment, you have to do 8 times the effort just to get back to where you could have been if you had had a good first impression. That feels like utter insanity to do anything different than this.
And that's a hard place to come back from.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, there's so much more than this, and we'd love to share it, but we're getting long. We still have to do a draw. So, what do you say we sum this up? Guys, if you want a summarized guide that you can follow and even show your team the service loop electrical pre-arrival and even FOIA rapport steps in a condensed format that you guys could train to, so you know that your team is not getting this piece wrong. They're not showing up as a threat, but showing up as those 310s and helping you guys connect and open that acute angle up of opportunities, so that you don't need these 8 subsequent positive actions to try to recover from this drowning with your new prospects, new clients that you've worked so hard for. If you want that, you go ahead and reach out to us where you heard us first. You can send us a message on our website, servicebyelectricians.com. You can follow us on Instagram. My profile is very active, clay.newmeyer, on Facebook at Million Dollar Electrician. And we'll see you there for that one. Joe, you ready for the spin of the week here?
I can't wait to have it, man. This is gonna be so cool. First live spin. This is gonna be a fun one.
All right. We're using an app, by the way, guys. We're going to share a screen. It's called spinthewheel.app. You're welcome to use this for your own safety prizes and training. Here's the big spin. Drum roll, please. And it looks like Jamie Irving. Congratulations, brother. Congratulations. We can't wait to see you in class. We'll reach out to you direct and give you your award and set you up an invite to this class, this options design clinic. I know it's going to help you deliver big and really open your eyes to the world of creating better solutions for your clients. Joe, I can't thank you enough for today. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this one, brother?
Really, I want to just add that sometimes we struggle with things because we feel they're out of our control. This is one of those levers that's not the case. This is something that's 100% in all of our controls. You can do this with minimal effort, but with high intention. So instead of just going through and just saying, I'm going to wing it, ask yourself, if I don't have a process in place, where can I get that process? And I can tell you where you can get it if you need it.
Love it, man. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Million Dollar Electrician podcast.
We hope you're buzzing with new ideas that charged up to take your business to the next level.
So don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow electricians. Together, we'll keep the current flowing.